All right, welcome to this explainer on the brand new Claude Code 2.1.232 release. Look, I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through these updates today because, frankly, this isn't just your standard patch notes readout. No, this is a fundamental evolution in how you're going to structure your coding workday. We're looking at some massive improvements here, all designed to streamline your daily workflow, totally eliminate friction, and make your AI coding assistant feel, well, a lot more like a truly integrated teammate. So let's just dive right in and see exactly how your development environment is about to change. Think about your daily workflow for a second. I mean, we have literally all been there, right? You've got 3 different terminal windows open, each running a totally isolated Claude session, all working on different parts of the same project. And they're completely siloed. It is so incredibly frustrating when you realize session A has the exact context that session B desperately needs to function. But what if your AI coding sessions could finally talk to each other? Well, this release tackles that very common developer annoyance head-on by completely breaking down those terminal walls.
So here is our agenda for today. 1. Cross-session messaging arrives. 2. Smarter background subagents. 3. GitLab integration and protection. 4. Critical security hardening fixes. And 5. Reliable remote control experiences. Let's get into it.
Section 1. Cross-session messaging arrives. Think of this feature as basically introducing an inter-office intercom system specifically for your AI. Okay, so the old way, you were stuck in these isolated, disconnected terminal sessions. If you wanted to share information across them, you were copying and pasting like it was 2010. But the new way introduces seamless routing. You can now message your other live Claude Code sessions directly from your prompt. All you do is literally just type the @ symbol, followed by a session name. And under the hood, Claude uses this newly built-in tool called SendMessage to route your prompt directly over to that other session. Oh, and the best part? There is absolutely no confirmation prompt required to do this, as long as the name you type is an exact match for one of your live sessions. It just works. Now, you might actually be thinking, wait, what if I'm on a shared machine? Or what if I just use terribly generic names for my sessions? Don't worry, Claude has you covered here. To prevent any crossfire, interactive sessions now enforce unique names. So if you try to start or rename a session to something that's already in use, Claude Code will automatically assign a name, word variant, and explicitly tell you what it picked. Plus, you get total control over this via the /config menu. There are 2 new rows in there. One for dialog expiry and another specifically for messages from your other sessions. That's where you can tell Claude whether to globally accept, hold, or just straight up refuse inbound messages.
Section 2. Smarter background subagents. Let's talk about delegating the heavy lifting to our AI teammates.
The new default behavior they've introduced here is honestly fascinating. Subagent forking is now turned on by default in 2.1.232. Basically, when a subagent is defined with subagent type set to fork, it doesn't start from scratch anymore. It actually inherits the full conversation history and the prompt cache right from its parent session. Just imagine hiring a background intern who instantly downloads all your context, all your past trial and error in that session, and can hit the ground running immediately without you having to sit there and re-explain the whole project.
Because of this, the really crucial takeaway is that you can keep your main terminal unblocked. Since these subagents are now so unbelievably context-aware, non-teammate agent spawns in interactive sessions will automatically run in the background by default. You dispatch the agent to go figure out some complex bug or, write a test suite, and instead of totally locking up your screen, it just works quietly in the background. That allows you to keep typing, keep thinking, and keep working in your main terminal without any interruption. It's just a massive quality of life upgrade.
Section 3. GitLab integration and protection. Let's shift our focus over to enterprise-grade reliability.
GitLab support has officially arrived in the plugin marketplace. And guys, it is beautifully implemented. BearGitLab.com repo URLs, and yes, that absolutely includes those tricky nested subgroups, now clone exactly the same way GitHub.com URLs do. No more weird workarounds. Also, if you do run into authentication issues, the auth failure error messages now explicitly name the actual Git host, which makes debugging so much less of a headache. Finally, the GitLab CLI config store now benefits from the exact same sandbox and credential path protections that were previously only applied to the GitHub CLI.
And hey, speaking of those protections, the scope of the new secret reductions for GitLab is massive.
Whether you are using a runner token starting with GLRT-, an agent token, or a service account token, Claude Code now applies strict secret redaction across the board. And for your most highly sensitive credentials, like personal access tokens starting with GLPAT-, and deploy tokens with GLDT-, it applies full redaction. Your enterprise credentials are treated with the utmost security right out of the box, which is just great to see.
Which naturally leads us to ask this question. With these deeper integrations, and with Claude doing a lot more automated work inside your terminal, how exactly is the platform keeping your local system safe? Because at the end of the day, we need to know for sure that these powerful tools aren't accidentally opening up backdoors in our environments.
Section 4. Critical Security Hardening Fixes. These are the critical patches applied to give busy developers some actual peace of mind.
Let's see how this update builds a fortress around your local setup. Over on PowerShell, they've completely blocked bypasses that silently overwrite parameters. On Windows, Git Bash path validation now correctly ignores symlinked exploits. And if you work with nested repos, well, each one now requires explicit trust confirmation. They've also heavily hardened the Linux file system sandbox, and shared temp environments will now actively refuse pre-planted symlinks or directories owned by other users. So yeah, it's a very comprehensive security lockdown.
Section 5. Reliable remote control experiences. Let's talk about what happens when you step away from your IDE.
If you have ever used Claude from your desktop app or an IDE remote connection, you know exactly how annoying it was to come back and find like a bunch of duplicate sessions waiting for you. Well, no more. Sessions now cleanly reattach to your existing session when you resume. And if a session worker has to restart, your entire conversation history is fully restored. Furthermore, your terminal will now act as a reliable source of truth. It explicitly reports whether a session was taken over by another device, ended from another app, or deleted entirely. Because of all this, it finally stops suggesting those false reconnects that would accidentally undo the actions you just took remotely.
And, we absolutely can't talk about remote work without addressing the dreaded network blip. You know that sinking feeling. Your Wi-Fi drops for a split second and you completely lose connection to your agent while it's doing heavy lifting. Well, the magic number here? 30. That is 30 full minutes. If you experience a network disruption now, remote control will persistently keep trying to reconnect your session for approximately 30 full minutes. So you can literally go grab a coffee, completely reset your router, and come back right where you left off.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to rapid fire a few final friction-reducing improvements that just make the overall experience incredibly snappy. The /feedback and /bug commands, they now open instantly, even if Claude is mid-response. Running /plugin install now auto-refreshes the marketplace, so you don't need to do a manual update step to see newly published plugins. If you love long full-screen streaming sessions, they're going to stay completely responsive now because the engine no longer renormalizes the entire conversation on every single update. Oh, and MTLS client certificate rotation, that happens completely in the background without requiring a restart. It's just snappy, fast, and frictionless. If you really want to dig into the technical nitty-gritty of these features, or maybe you're looking for some advanced workflows, I highly recommend checking out the complete manual. You can find in-depth guides, pro tips, and full release breakdowns for all of Anthropic's Claude tools by visiting claudemaster.net. It is just an incredible resource for getting the absolute most out of your setup.
We've covered a whole lot of ground today, right? Everything from session intercoms to self-restoring background agents. But I want to leave you with this one final thought. Think about the trajectory we're actually on here. How autonomous are these coding tools becoming now that they can seamlessly communicate with each other, inherit massive context instantly, and operate entirely in the background while you focus on the higher-level architecture? We really aren't just using tools anymore. We are orchestrating entire teams of AI subagents. It's a fascinating evolution of the workday, and I honestly can't wait to see what you all build with it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and happy coding.